97underground.com, Baltimore's pure rock.
Hello, this is Michael Spedden, and thanks for joining us today on the 97underground.com Michael Spedden Interviews channel here on YouTube. There have been many requests from both listeners and guests for us to make available our artist interviews so they can listen again or share with others. You can find us on YouTube at 97underground Michael Spedden. Remember, the Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show, can be heard on 97underground.com every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Not only do I feature artist interviews, I feature songs you forgot you liked, classics that never die, beloved local, regional, up-and-coming, and underground artists. You can listen anytime, anywhere by downloading our free app from 97underground.com. Just do it. And now, today's episode. Folks, enjoy our interview here with Charlie Kendall of Metal Shop. Metal Shop just came on board with 97 Underground, and we're really glad to have him. I can remember listening to Metal Shop quite a bit when I was a budding young headbanger back in the 80s. Charlie Kendall was just a delight to interview. He's got lots of great stories, so check out the episode. We hope you enjoy it. Charlie Kendall of Metal Shop. And welcome back to the Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show here on 97underground.com, Baltimore's pure rock worldwide. And today, a very special guest, somebody that I'm just thrilled to have the opportunity to speak with today. A big part of my formative years as a budding young headbanger back in the 80s, listening to my favorite show on Sunday nights right before the King Biscuit Flower Hour. And what show was that? Of course, the only show with teeth. Metal Shop, Metal Shop. Charlie Kendall is here to join us tonight. And Charlie, welcome back. Glad to have you back on the air and doing Metal Shop. So tell us, how did this resurrect itself? And tell us all the good news here,
Well, a couple of years ago, like about 10, my son said, "Dad, metal's going to make a comeback. It's going to come back. All of the old players are going to come back, and Metal Shop has a place within that." And I said, "Yeah, okay. Well, let me look around." And I looked around, and there wasn't a whole lot, going at that point. There were a lot of good new bands, but the older bands weren't finding much footing.
Oh, so sure, yeah.
I was just putzing around and getting tired of doing a lot of nothing. I'd done all the fishing I can do. I had resurrected like 5 motorcycles, and I did 3 or 4 old 50s pickup trucks that I completely restored. And this is my retirement, And then I'm like going, fuck, I really miss the radio. And I decided to do a podcast. And I did a Metal Shop podcast, a little flashback, because you can't play the music.
Right.
And the only thing I could do it for starting on was, YouTube. So you can't play music on there. So I would take the interview segments and do some stuff around them. And then I was like, well, this is okay. It is like touched a certain nerve, but I'm not having a really good time doing this.
Right.
And so anyway, I put 4 of them out there and I said, nah, okay, that's all right. And I got a call from Michael Brandvold at 3 Sides of the Coin. He was the guy who put KISS on the web. He did their website. When they first launched, he was in charge of the KISS Army and all that. He said, we have a podcast called 3 Sides of the Coin, and we'd like to have you on. And I said, okay. So I went on, and we talked, and we shot the bull for a little while, and it was very good. I enjoyed it. And he said, what do you got? I said, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And I got a call about a month or 2 after that from a guy named Corey Harker, who said, I hear you're looking for some old Metal Shop shows. I said, yeah. He said, what are you looking for? I said, well, out of the 586, I only have about 100. He says, well, I think I have about 400. So we started trading shows, and he started bringing up the fact that he thinks that we should bring back Metal Shop. And he said, well, why don't you talk to my boss? So I get an introduction to Ron Keel.
Sure.
Going, Ron Keel, Steeler. We stole your guitar off your record for the opening of Metal Shop. The buzzsaw sound is Yngwie Malmsteen from the Steeler album. which Ron Keel sang on. And I'm like, he's going, well, I want you on my station on KRFK radio. And I'm going, well, I don't really have a show. He said, we'll do it. We will help you get up and running and see if it has legs. So we agreed to do 10 shows. And we did. We did 10 shows, and they went great. We had a great New Year's show, and then all of a sudden we're still doing shows every week. And that was it. I mean, it just got going, and there was a little bit of traction, whole different ball game now.
Oh, yeah.
Because all the people that I call from radio that I used to know are either gone or dead. And all the people that I do reach are the poor guys. They're messengers sitting there in the brand manager's chair. Used to be a program director, but they don't have any authority, and they have to take the thing and shoot it up the ladder to somebody else to have a look at it. So that's where we are now, is in launching it. Whereas in 1983 I started the original Metal Shop, and it was the same deal. ABC turned me down, NBC turned me down, CBS turned me down, Westwood One turned me down. Everybody turned it down except for MJI Broadcasting. And they said, okay, we'll give this a run. If you don't know the story, even Josh Feigenbaum, who owned MJI Broadcasting, and they had several smaller shows, said, I don't know if it's got legs. I don't know if anybody will play metal on the radio. And I said, it's going to be bigger than you can possibly imagine. And the guy I had producing was a guy named John McGann. And I got John to take Josh to see a show at Madison Square Garden. It was Judas Priest, and it was their first Garden appearance. And nobody sat down. The place was nuts, and Josh was in. All of a sudden, Feigenbaum said, yeah, let's roll. And we got off and running, and we got up to 250 stations. And it went very well. And then grunge came in the early 90s, and things are starting to wobble. Nobody knew exactly how to handle it. Then all the consultants, every radio consultant on the planet, said, you can't say metal on the radio, so you can't say Metal Shop. Well, and they were thinking about dropping the show if we continued to use the word metal. And I said, well, if you take the word metal out of it, you really defeat the entire purpose for it.
Right.
So that's not going to work. So anyway, I think the last show was Slash from his solo band days, and it went well. And I just said, look, guys, the shop doesn't quite cut it. They had different, sounders. There was the buzzsaw was gone, no Metal Shop, just none of that. It was, all completely different. And I said, this doesn't have any compelling properties to it.
Yeah.
Metal Shop had compelling properties. We did it as a magazine-style show. It was the People magazine of metal. I mean,
Yes.
That was the whole idea from the beginning.
Right,
A cover story, side shots, all kinds of old stuff, new stuff, and it worked, and it's actually seemingly working again now. I know we're having a damn good time doing it. So,
I'm glad to hear that, because what I didn't want to hear was, why did I get back into this? No. I'm glad to hear that. A lot of my friends, I've told a lot of friends of mine that we used to all listen in high school. We used to talk about it the next day in the cafeteria. And we would be like, and I told them, I said, Metal Shop is back, and we've got it on 97 now, and they're like, when? They're like, Monday afternoon at 4. So guys are listening on their way home from work, or if they're working from home, they're turning it on. Welcome back. Like I said,
Metal Shop Monday, you were part of how we got that whole thing going, because all of a sudden it was stacked up throughout the day on Monday. I went, Metal Shop Monday. There it is.
Right. Now, the one thing that I think that you could play a role in now, and this is something I talk about on my show quite a bit. Back in those days when I was in high school, I was listening, and some of the things that really come to mind when I think of Metal Shop was, there was a song called Metal Man by T.T. Quick that I had never heard before I heard it on Metal Shop, and I loved it. Yeah. And I used to record the shows too. Now, they're long gone. I don't have any of them. But we used to record them and listen to them over and over again, too. Another band called Jaguar with a song called Taking the City by Storm.
Yeah.
And then one of my other favorites was, this is probably the the most in-your-face metal song I'd ever heard. It was called Metal Inquisition by Piledriver. And
I don't even remember that one.
Basically, it was talking about, we're the Metal Inquisition, and if we catch you listening to New Wave, you're going to die by guillotine. And they have a guillotine sound come down, and that was just one that really stands out in memory. And another thing that I remembered, too, was hearing a version of Cross-Eyed Mary, the Jethro Tull song, but done by Iron Maiden.
Yeah. Yeah.
I absolutely loved that. So, you were turning people on. You were giving these bands opportunities to reach an audience. People loved your show. They're listening. And getting on there must have been like a comedian getting on Johnny Carson back in the day,
It was helpful for bands to get out there. They got gigs usually after we gave them a play or two. And some of them actually broke through. And that's fun. I get emails and texts today. From bands. They want to know if we can get a play because they have nowhere to go. The thing, it's interesting to me, there's no diss involved in here, please. I think Eddie Trunk is one of the most talented guys going. He does fabulous interviews, and he has probably the biggest metal show out there from the TV show and the spinoff. As you and I understand radio, he has had the biggest cume of any of us.
Oh, yeah, he sure has.
But he doesn't play a lot of current music, if any, at all. Dee Snider won't play anything after like 1990.
Sure, the House of Hair, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, it's like, I don't get it. Because to me, it's all of it. And metal it's an attitude,
It is. It is.
It's nothing to do with, what year it came out. But that's just me.
Right. Well, another thing, too, is that, with doing what you're doing, I listened to your show this afternoon. I heard Corey Glover's new band, him and the fellow from Adrenaline Mob have a new project out. You spun a couple of songs off of that. Yeah, yes. And I'm looking at my notes here, and I knew I wrote it down, but there was a British band you had right after that I thought was great. I just couldn't remember. Yeah, no, Metal Church you played before that. But regardless, I'm sure we'll figure it out. But the thing that I say, and my show is a combination. My show's called The Back of the Rack. I play a lot of deep cuts. I'll play that UFO song that never became the hit, but everybody loves it off of the album.
Back of the Rack I like. That's good. But how many of today's listeners know what you mean by that? I know exactly what you mean.
Right. Well, it depends on the crowd. I do have a good listenership because, I'm out emceeing shows and I'm working with a lot of bands here in the Mid-Atlantic region. The one thing that you always hear people say, and they've been saying it for years, man, there's no good music out there nowadays. There is.
I know.
There is.
A whole lot of it.
I mean, there's a whole lot of it out there. Not only are there bands that are, coming out with new stuff now from a lot of veteran musicians.
The new Priest album is killer.
It is. It is.
It's very, very good.
It is. It's great. Deep Purple had a nice album out a few years ago. This is probably going back a few years, but that was a great album.
No, they've always done good stuff. Roger Glover is a really great bass player.
He is great bass player and also a producer too.
Yeah. And he's held the brand together all this time. It's been mostly him.
Really, it has. It really has. And with Rainbow, when he was in Rainbow, too, a producer as well. And another thing that I'm finding, too, in this region, there are a number of bands that were around in and I'm talking Mid-Atlantic, that are getting signed now when the material they had then.
Yeah.
They're getting distribution deals. I guess they're, kind of maybe the record companies or whoever the powers that be are like, hey, these guys were good. Maybe they did deserve a shot.
I've seen a lot of that in groups that are coming out. Ron Keel is finding an audience for his stuff from the 90s and on, from the late 80s and early 90s. He put out albums and, greatest hits packages, and they're grabbing them. They're picking them up. There is something going on because metal music and hard rock music are generally, if they're any good, absolutely authentic.
It is.
And I think that is an element that is missing in a lot of music today. It's formulaic. It's all contrived. It was all done in a laboratory, and aided by, pitch correction. Metal bands aren't like that.
Nope, not at all.
They get out there and do it to it. It's really nice to be a part of that and to watch it. Looking at the shows, this 80s big metal show with Queensryche, Ron Keel and George Lynch. I mean, they're doing shows in stadiums near me. I live in Lexington, Kentucky, but they're in Louisville. That one's coming in there, Louder Than Life. It's also coming up in September. That's going to be monstrous. That's got everybody in the planet on it. I mean, it's 3 days of incredible music. So there's a lot going on. I see Slash is doing well with a metal tinged blues album. Go figure.
I thought I saw a video of him. Maybe it was an older project, but it looked like he was working with Brian Johnson.
That's the new one.
It is, okay.
Yeah, Brian Johnson singing an old Howlin' Wolf song.
Right,
It's fabulous. It's wonderful stuff.
I saw that, and then there's a number of them out there, too, that are the Jeff Scott Sotos, the Joel Hoekstras, the guys that, they end up showing up everywhere. Right. A number of great albums have come out from those guys over the years in various projects. One was called Iconic that had Joel Hoekstra, one of the brothers from Stryper. One of the Sweets was in it. Tommy Aldridge.
Sweet was the singer, I believe, of that particular configuration. I saw something about that as well.
And then there's also, Jeff Scott Soto working with Sons of Apollo, and then was just working with, I think it was Art of Anarchy that just had an album out too.
Yeah.
The stuff that they put out never disappoints, no matter who they're working with.
Look, the entire 60s and 70s were made by about 3 bands.
Yes,
as far as the hits we heard on the radio, I mean,
right.
You had the Wrecking Crew, you had the Motown gang, you had the Memphis gang, you had the Philadelphia gang, and then the New York gang, and they were all tight musicians that all came together, played in the band, and then left separately. It's not many people know those stories because they weren't the stars, but they played so well, they elevated whoever the star was. In rock music, what tends to happen that I've seen is that somebody will inspire other people in the band or in the radio station, if you will, and give them permission to be great, give them permission to be better than they are, and to grow every day. And then it just blossoms and blooms. And you've seen radio stations where all of a sudden everybody is being a killer. Everybody's going in there like a pirate on the Caribbean with their knife in their teeth, out grabbing gold and having a great time doing it. Which to me those were great radio stations. And I think that's going to come back because every time I'm looking at something about a live station where an owner has actually said, hey, we need to get all live talent and put them in on the air. They're winning, they're doing it. They're going in and they're winning against the station that's voice tracking. And there's somebody in there voice tracking 22 radio stations. Not the same thing.
It's not at all. It's not at all. It's completely different. I mean, it's It is. It's the difference between really personalities and just background music, having, a personality driven show, the music reflects the host personality. And, but then there's the other ones where they just have pre-programmed, I think it was called Jack FM or something like that, where it's just, no personalities. They just slide the music in there and just let it sit and play.
Yeah.
Personalities, I think, definitely have to come back because there were so many great ones over the years. You're on KRFK. It looks like you're really gaining some momentum with this. And
I hope so.
Just me and a lot of other people are just like, glad, my God, thank God, Metal Shop. I love it. I've been listening. What do you think? What are the plans? I mean, I guess you're planning to continue with it as long as you can, I guess, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it's a matter of, it's still fun. It's still a joy to do.
Right.
And when you can do something that you're fairly good at, and do it well, and it makes other people happy, and it makes you happy.
Yeah.
That's a win-win. So I'm enjoying that part of it. Feeling my way around the social media space is also a whole new can of worms.
Oh, yeah, it sure is.
That's altogether different. I've picked up another skill, which is doing video promos.
Yes, me too.
I've done I don't know how many promos I've done. I made a living doing promos. I had a company called Kendall Energies, and I had 105 radio stations I did voiceovers for. Yeah, that was in the late 80s. I picked it up in, 88, 89? And I had 105 stations. You're in a studio from like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning till midnight every freaking day.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, it was a grind because you're not working with digital anything. It was all reel to reel. I had an 8-track machine and 4 reel to reel Otaris, and it got easier once we got DAT player in there. The first DAT player was a digital VHS machine.
Yeah.
It gave me the chance to master all my stuff, so I didn't have all these little reels sitting around.
Oh, yeah, I remember those days. Yep.
Yeah, it was wild. So I forgot how I got off on that.
You were just talking about, how things are going well, the momentum's picking up.
We picked up stations. We've got about 12 stations now, which, I mean, we just started trying to get stations in February.
Right.
I think that's pretty good, and we'll continue to pick up. So if anybody wants to get on board, go to charliekendall.com. And you'll find all the contact information you need from me right now. You can get the show. It's free. Don't cost you nothing. Run my commercials. Thank you very much.
You can find, there are spots out there if you do want to listen to, you could say, the back of the rack of the Metal Shop shows, right?
Yes.
You can find them. There's a couple sites where they're archived, and you can listen to those as well, correct?
You mean the old first original shows?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Those are only available at this point in time, New HD New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is New HD Media. It is a charity station.
Okay.
It is designed strictly for people with autism and other disabilities. I mean, we've got autistic DJs there. You've got DJs who are blind. You've got DJs who have other disabilities. They can't walk. They can't do this.
Oh,
but
sure.
They can get on a microphone and play and have fun, which is what you and I get to do for a living.
Yeah.
Those people with any sort of disability or they can't get a job in this game. The guy, Zach Martin, who put the station together, he made it happen. So basically, I gave him all of the Metal Shop shows I had. And I said, if you run them, if anybody has a problem, tell them, call Charlie. Because it's my voice on there. It's my creation. And if iHeartMedia had wanted it, they wouldn't have thrown away all the masters.
Yep.
When they bought MJI Broadcasting, they threw everything away because they didn't want to pay for storage.
Sure,
You got reel-to-reel masters. And I guess it was like something in the neighborhood of 8,000 pounds of boxes that were just mine, just Metal Shop. And they literally threw them out into the garbage. So I became the caretaker because it was my baby. I tried to buy it from them, and they said they couldn't sell it to me because, they were gone. And the basic discussion at that point was, hey, and this is from someone in the organization, look, they threw them away. What are they going to say? Do what you want. But, in other words, don't go selling them. Okay. Yeah. Gave them to a erstwhile organization, and they run them on Monday night.
Oh, okay.
Metal Shop Monday. They run the current show 7 to 8, 8 to midnight, 4 hours of old classic Metal Shop shows.
Oh, wonderful. Well, you heard it here, guys. This is where we're going to go and remember our youth.
You can hear them tonight.
Yeah, you sure can. Monday nights. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's newhdmedia.com.
Newhdmedia.com. I will put that in the show notes so people can find it. Newhdmedia.com. That's wonderful. And it's nice that we're able to go back and hear these because the way things were, and I've heard these stories from a number of people because I'm kind of like a showbiz history geek. A number of people that were on Carson back in the 60s. And back in those days, once they would air a show, they would reuse the tape, just tape the next show right over.
Yeah, God, I heard about that.
And there were even some beloved, we all remember in our hometowns, 60s and 70s when I was a kid growing up, how not everything, you had your big three, ABC, NBC, CBS.
Yeah.
Fox and the CW and the WB.
They weren't there till much later.
Yeah, they weren't there until much. So a lot of these stations were a lot like UHF with Weird Al Yankovic, a small skeleton crew running it. And they had like one fellow who was the weatherman / Bozo the Clown / kids show host, right? And I would give anything to get my hands on those old shows. But after the shows were over, nobody thought of nostalgia back in those days. They thought we need closet space. There they go, right into the dumpster, and they're gone.
Well, Metal Shop, there's a guy that just posted 2 shows that he picked up. They were latter era shows of the old Metal Shop, and they're pristine. And he got them for like $35-40 each. I'm not sure where he got them or any of that, but he was talking about, let me know how much you're willing to buy them for, and I said, look, you don't want to talk about money and amounts and stuff like that, because there could be a copyright issue that could bite you. So be careful when you do that. And the guy said, well, what are they going to do? And I go and I look. He's like 20. He's like a 20-year-old guy. And in his Facebook page are every bootleg and old classic bootleg albums from Metallica. He's got a collection from hell. And that's what he does. He's a collector. The collectors did not exist for the Johnny Carson era stuff.
No,
these guys now, it's huge. One of the old Metal Shop shows that I saw on Discogs, if you've ever looked at. Have you looked at that?
Yes.
Discogs had one of the old Metal Shop shows. I forget which one it was, but it was like $350.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, wait a minute, I didn't get paid that much for it myself. Hold on, what is the deal here? It's amazing the whole nostalgia thing. And people that were basically hoarders and collectors are now well-to-do and having pickers show on various network stations.
Well, Charlie, I really appreciate you spending time with us here on 97underground.com. It's just been wonderful to talk. Again, I've enjoyed your shows for years. I'm glad to see them coming back. From the bottom of my heart, all the best of luck for you in this year. I'm really pulling for you. A lot of people are glad to see you come back. If you hear the Welcome Back Cotter theme in your head sometime, we're glad to hear you. So, folks, you heard him right here, the legendary Charlie Kendall, Metal Shop, the only show with teeth. You can hear him on Monday afternoons on 97underground.com and on a bunch of other ones on KRFK Radio.
You get the complete list at charliekendall.com. The complete list is there with links.
Yes.
I make it easy.
Yes, and you can also visit charliekendall.com where you can get these fashionable, beautiful T-shirts.
Pick up these lovely, lovely garments that we wear.
The babes go nuts for you. Believe me, when you're wearing a Metal Shop shirt, that is the biggest chick magnet you could ever come up with, guys. Trust me. Charlie, again, it's been an honor and a privilege to speak with you today. All the best. Again, we're really pulling for your success, hoping that this ends up being a thing for a long time to come.
Thank you, Michael.
97underground.com.
And thanks again for listening to 97 Underground, the Michael Spedden Interviews, and we hope you enjoyed today's show. Remember, download the free app from 97underground.com so you can listen to us wherever you go. The Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show, can be heard on 97underground.com every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Listen anytime, anywhere.
Metal.
Worldwide metal, 24/7. 97underground.com.